What a fantastic battle awaits us here as we get ourselves geared up and ready in fantastic fashion for the F4 Indian Championship. It is a historic day as we get ourselves ready in fantastic fashion for this first qualifying session in history. It's going to be a very busy schedule over the course of the next month and a half as we have 5 events in F4 India 2023. Here in Chennai, we start on the Madras Motorsports Club on the Madras International Circuit in downtown Irangatukatoi, just outside the city of Chennai itself. And then, of course, on the 9th of December and the 10th of December for rounds 4 and 5, we have the all-new challenge of the Chennai Street Circuit. We cannot wait for that. But, of course, we have to get the ball rolling on this fabulously technical and dynamic race circuit. It'll be very tricky to predict who is going to be on pole position for this first ever race in the contention, but we are very excited to see how the battle is likely to play out. I'm Jake Sanson, beside me is Sumil Arora, and we are ready for this first ever session in the F4 Indian Championship for qualifying. A lot of contenders gunning for the top spot here, running in the same battles, running in the same teams as we will see in the Indian Racing League later on. There are 11 competitors going into this first weekend of the season, and as you can see, the drivers are ready for battle in time qualifying. The pit lane will open at 12:30, and we're in for a really exciting showcase. It's all of the drivers, some with experience of F4, some have never managed to get that. It'll be a fascinating situation. How are the drivers faring, Sumil, getting ahead of this first qualifying session?
To be honest with you, hot and sweaty. It is a sweltering hot day in Chennai. I mean, everyone is really sweating hard. And most of them, their primary focus at the moment is not the driving before they get in the car. It's just staying hydrated, because when you're in the car, it is such a physically demanding task that it can genuinely drain out all your body liquids. And in the car, not kidding you, you could pass out as well. That's a genuine challenge. So all the drivers, firstly, well hydrated, well rested. And the focus now then shifts to the circuit, because the Madras International Circuit, as you mentioned, Jake, home of Indian motorsport. In fact, fun fact, yesterday, it marked, I think, one of the 50th odd anniversaries of the Madras International Circuit's foundation stone being laid down by Sir Jackie Stewart back in 1976. So incredible the history that this circuit has. It's been the home of Indian racing for so many years. We've had karts, we've had bikes, we've had rallycross, we've got circuit racing, touring cars, single-seaters, everything racing here at this circuit for ages. And so many drivers have come and gone, but very few have actually mastered the technical challenges that you need to ace this circuit. That's going to be the primary trouble for all these drivers. Can they nail down the conditions? Can they get the tires to work properly in these incredibly hot conditions? Because when that happens, Jake, the peak grip wears out. And for a session like qualifying, where the fastest lap sets the grid, that is going to be a huge challenge for them. The green flag is up in the air. The pit lane is open. Qualifying for the Indian Formula 4 Championship is open for the first time ever. And before we begin talking about the entire thing, let's just take a moment to drink it all in. The Indian Formula 4 Championship was a dream we've had for over a decade now. We've lacked that structure to bring in Formula 1 drivers in India, where we have great grassroots level karting, but nothing to bridge the gap between karting and cars quite like this. So before we properly start to talk about qualifying, we need to take a second to talk about how big of an achievement this is from the FMSCI, from RPPL, and also the Madras International Circuit to set this up. Because frankly, Jake, this, in my opinion, could change the entire ball game for Indian motorsport. Suddenly, we have a bridge from karting to cars, and that, frankly, is something that I would have dreamed of so many years ago.
Yeah, it certainly is a very important step in the Indian motorsport scene. You have to remember that if you've got an FIA Formula 4 championship in your nation, it showcases you as a pinch point, a pinnacle area of the world of motorsport to have a stepping stone up the world of motor racing ladder. These identical Miguel racing cars that all have the same engines, the same tires, the same chassis. Every driver has the same equipment, so they all have the same opportunity to move their way forward. They're all being engineered by the MP Motorsport team, so they're being engineered by a squad that has plenty of incredible engineering know-how and excellence over the years. So it's not amateurs that are running these cars at all. These guys are the pros in the world of F4. They know how to engineer these cars. They know how to get the most out of them. What they don't have is the knowledge of this circuit, because we've never had F4 cars racing around this circuit before. So it's a big stepping stone for the Indian motorsport ladder. But for a lot of the drivers here, some of them have F4 experience already, such as Akshay Bora, who's been racing in the Italian F4 Championship this year. Other drivers are literally stepping into these cars for the very first time. In some cases, particularly in the case of the young lady racer Salva Marjan, she's only come out of the world of arrive and drive karting prior to this to come straight into F4. So that's a big jump.
Absolutely, and this is a stepping stone for all of them. More than just getting used to the cars and the track, it's also getting used to the level of competition, Jake, because qualifying is such an intense process here. They've got 8.5 minutes, 7.5 left in the session now, and the idea is quite simple. Go out there and set the fastest lap possible. That, folks, will set the grid for race number 1 that is going to happen later on today. And quite simply put, as Will Buxton would love to say, if you qualify higher up, you have a greater chance of winning the race. Isn't that perfect, Jake? But that's going to be the agenda for the session, to go out there and to put the best lap possible. Only one lap counts, so nothing like the average aggregate lap time, no complicated stuff quite like that. Quite simply put, the fastest lap of all the drivers will be the one that counts in setting up the grid. And to put that fastest lap, A, you've got to make sure that the tires are in the right condition. B, you've got to make sure you get decent enough dough as well in the circuit, which is something that Rohan Pradesh is trying to do in the background, getting on Shahan Ali Mohsin, which is what he'll do in the next lap, by the way. But also C, get your mind in the right space, because with these cars, a lot of things can go wrong technically. It's a very complicated car to learn. So not at any given point you'll be 100% aware about how everything works. So to get your mind in the right frame is quite a big challenge. And in qualifying, that's what Formula 1 drivers talk about as their main challenge. Can I be in that frame of mind that I can deliver my best performance and then relax?
Yeah, it's worth bearing in mind that F4, for those who are new to this sport and not really aware of how important Formula 4 is to the wider world of motor racing, if you win an F4 championship, it really sets you up to move up through the ladder. There have been some very competitive racing drivers in various different categories of F4 in the different nations that have had real good success out of it. You've only got to look at the name Lando Norris. Anybody who's a Formula 1 fan knows the name Lando Norris and is obviously one of the top drivers in Formula 1 at the moment. Well, he won the F4 Championship of Britain in 2015, and that set him on the road to greatness. You've got to look through the list of other drivers as well. Marta Garcia, of course, won the F4-based F1 Academy this year, and that's set her off on the journey to Formula Regional. In France, there have been some decent drivers to win. Ayuma Iwasa, who is, of course, part of the Red Bull program now, and he's going to be racing in Super Formula next year in Japan. Esteban Masson, well, he's been fighting for the Euro Cup 3 title, having won in F4 in France in 2021. You've also got to look at the likes of German F4 champions, Johnny Edgar, Oliver Behrman and Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who are all now permanent staples of the Formula 1 paddock in 2024. So that'll be really exciting to see how they get on. In Italy, there have been so many competitive drivers in F4 to win the championship. Lance Stroll won it, of course, in 2014. Now he's racing in Grand Prix with the Aston Martin racing team. Marcus Armstrong, Enzo Fittipaldi and Dennis Hauger all went from German F4 championship titles to race in Formula 2. And you've also got to look to Japan. There have been some great drivers in the F4 Japanese Championship. The likes of Shota Tsuboi and Ritamo Miyata have both been F4 champions in Japan. And this weekend, in their home nation, they're actually going for the Super GT title a week after Miyata won Super Formula. So winning in F4 is such a big deal. And to have the first Indian Championship in F4, it's a big stepping stone. As Akshay Bora sets the initial pace, a 1:38.5 for him. Half a second is what separates the top 4 drivers at the moment. But Shahan Ali Mohsin is only 0.09 of a second off the pace of Akshay Bora for the moment, as drifting off the road there very briefly. That was Marjan, I think, just getting a little bit skewered. Now this young man has a big opportunity, a big challenge in front of him. It's the young Vietnamese driver, Alex Sauer, who has been in the world of IAME X30 karting in Europe for the last couple of seasons, then went into the world of the FIA European and World Championships with the Falcon Racing karting team. Really struggled, but they kind of felt, you know what, in the world of karting, it's not about winning, it's about learning. We've learned all we can. It's time to step up to the next big challenge. This is his first ever car racing weekend. Yep. And you know what? He's quitted himself very well. Look, he's in the top 5 already in terms of the lap times. This young man from Vietnam genuinely has a lot of credence going for him.
And not just him. Alex is also going through his first ever race weekend in Formula Cars. The same can also be said for Salva. Same can also be said for the likes of Jack Taylor. And also, actually, we had another driver who was going to have his first ever weekend, but not so much. But it's interesting how all these drivers are really experiencing car racing for the first time. But then they're also paired in with people who have done so many interesting championships. Rishon Rajiv, racing in the Indian Racing League last year, he in fact only decided to do this championship on the past Friday. It's Saturday today. Friday morning he was back in here. Monday morning he's going to be giving the exam because he didn't quite plan to be here. Got his seat fit done literally by Friday afternoon, and he's only turning in his first few laps in the car, but still so fast. There's him who's that competitive. There's Akshay Bora as well, who's racing in the Italian Formula 4 Championship. And guys and girls, if you want some context, it's like trying to play Ranji Trophy cricket in India, Italian Formula 4. It is one of the highest level of junior racing that you can ever go to. And Akshay is not just doing well, he's acing it. He's getting many podiums and surviving and thriving with the best of the very best at that particular level. So watching those two is going to be a lot of fun. I get a feeling the likes of Shahan Ali Mohsin, Cooper Webster, those two will be constantly on it because I've seen so many great things from both of them. Shahan domestically, Cooper in the world of sim racing, and also in the world of British Formula 4. These two can really be strong contenders for the title.
Yeah, Cooper Webster has been racing in GB4 over the course of this year, which has been very impressive for him to continue his amazing performance so far. And he's going to continue that epic struggle. Looking a really sensational performance so far from our contenders out there. We're looking very strong indeed up at the front end. Rishon Rajiv. There's Jack Taylor for the Goa Aces, looking particularly strong at the moment, just trying to get himself dialed in. And we watch the 11. That is Shahan Ali Mohsin, who's now a second and a half off the pace and needs to find it a little bit more. They just need to dial in the tyres and get themselves back up to speed again. But Akshay Bora certainly looking very strong with a 1:37.0 around this course. There is the 27. That is Rohan Madesh. So Rohan Madesh, of course, who is continuing to put on a good show. He's racing in the Bangalore Speedster colours for this season. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do. He comes off the final turn, gets back onto that curb along this long straight up into 5th position, 7/10 of a second away. Now it's good to see that Shahan Ali Mohsin is now 4/10 of a second away from the pace. Alex Sawyer is there 6/10 back. Mahadesh is 7/10, and then Arjun Jaheda is there in 6th position, 8/10 of a second away. It's a very close field that we've got at the moment up at the sharp end. We're still waiting to see a little bit more pace from the Chennai drivers, Rishabh Jain and Cooper Webster. Webster not quite up to pace yet. There is the number 11 car of Shahan Ali Mohsin, who did such a good job last year, don't forget, in the Indian Racing League. And that is the 28 going off. That is Nuris Gafoor, the Singaporean driver, really struggling as he rejoins the circuit, but he's gone through the grass. That's going to be really tricky for him to get the tyre temperatures back up again, and he's run out of time to do anything about it, sadly, for the Bangalore Speedsters, so it's all gone wrong. Let's see how he did it. Oh, big lock up into the left-hander. Nothing you can do to save that.
Yeah, carried a bit too much speed, and remember, first proper car racing weekend for Nuris Gafoor as well. These teething issues will keep on happening, and it's a matter of keeping your confidence in the right frame of mind, because if you get too lost in that mistake, you won't be able to go back in and put a good lap. And there was one more lap's time left. So the checkered flag is out there, but the drivers will be able to complete their existing laps. Watch out for car number 37. Cooper Webster, folks, he might be up there putting in a really fun lap. And also, I get a feeling Jack Taylor might also be getting to improve because he's normally been around the gap of being around 6/10 or 8/10 away from the top. I get a feeling there's one more big lap coming in. Checker flags out there. Alex Sawyer's finished in one lap. He qualifies 4th provisionally. Arjun Jaheda finishing in P6 at the moment. Shahan Ali Mohsin 4/10 away. That's a good banker lap, but are there more coming, Jake?
Well, there's certainly a couple of drivers trying to finish off strong. Rishon Rajiv and Akshay Bora are going to be on their final flyers. Across the line comes the 50. That's Rishabh Jain going up into 5th position with his final flying lap. Great work there from Rishabh Jain. Taylor can't improve. Bora still on a 1:36.7 to finish up. Rajiv improves big time. 2/10 of a second away there on a final lap time. That puts him on a 1:36.93. So a good final effort there from Rishon Rajiv, but the pole position goes the way of Akshay Bora, who has done a fantastic job there to get himself into pole position for the very first qualifying session. The Godspeed Kochi driver finishing off. Don't forget, he was kind of the mascot in the Indian Racing League Godspeed Kochi team last year.
Yep.
The team boss was so impressed with his mechanical know-how, they actually said to him, you take over race strategy for the week. And that's exactly what he did. So last year as a teenage youngster, younger brother of Nikhil Bora, He was actually on the race strategy for last year, and he helped guide them to the championship title. A year later, here he is in F4, and he bangs in the first pole position of Indian F4 history.
And he was doing that strategy role as a 15-year-old. At the moment, he's only 16 and absolutely smoking it off there. Great session for Akshay Bora. But also a quick word on Rishon Rajiv. As I mentioned earlier, he didn't even plan to do this championship until a couple of days ago. Straight up coming in this car, no knowledge of this car whatsoever, goes on and smashes a lap that is so much faster than other drivers who've got a lot more track time as well. Amazing stuff from Rishon Rajiv and Akshay Bora. But I'm slightly confused here. What went wrong for Cooper Webster? He was one of the fastest drivers in free practice. He is one of the most impressive young drivers in terms of mentality that I have seen at this level. Something clearly isn't right. I wonder what it is. We'll come back with more information. But trust me, in the race, he's also going to be one to watch for, along with all the others. But end of the first qualifying session that we've ever had in the history of the Indian Formula 4 Championship. Safe to say, that was fun, wasn't it, Jake?
It certainly was, and a very good start for Akshay Bora. A fabulous performance there on 1:36.721 for Akshay Bora. A good performance there. Rishon Rajiv, second position from Shahan Ali Mohsin. So we've got 3 different teams in the top 3 positions as well. That's really good news. So Shahan Ali Mohsin for the Hyderabad Blackbirds there in 3rd position. Rishon Rajiv doing a good job for Speed Demons Delhi in 2nd place. But Akshay Bora on the top spot for Godspeed Kochi. They've started their 2023 Indian Motorsport campaign in a very high note. Of course, this is the first of 5 events in Indian F4 in 2023. And great to see Akshay Bora doing such a fantastic performance out there. 0.2 of a second is the gap between Bora and Rajiv. Cat's Heat on the YouTube stream asks, is Dion Gowda not racing this weekend? That is correct. He will join us from the 2nd round of the championship onwards. So he was not available to compete this week. He will rejoin the season from round 2 of the championship onwards. So very unfortunate to not have him. There could well be a couple of other drivers as well looking to join the championship next time out as well. We've got a couple of drivers who are doing partial campaigns here, and this is basically part of their warm-up campaign for the 2024 competitive season. But certainly for Rishon Rajiv, he can be very happy with the way that's gone. A 1:36.93 for him. Now there is the 31, that is Akshay Bora, the man who has topped the timesheets of the first Indian F4 qualifying session in history. So a fabulous performance. And don't forget that this particular F4 championship is a bit of a starting point as well for the Hyderabad Blackbirds team, who of course team up with MP Motorsport when they compete in the Middle East. So that'll be an interesting starting point for them. It's all good data that they can carry into the off-season. It's fascinating. We had a question actually from somebody who asked, is this the start of the F4 season for 2024 technically? Well, not really. It's, I suppose, the tail end of the 2023 motorsport season, but for a lot of the drivers here, this is effectively the start of their 2024 campaign.
And yeah, that's true. And for so many of them, it's actually the start of their racing journeys in a way. Salva Margin, not done any car racing before this. For Norris Kafour as well, something similar. First ever proper car race. Same for Jack Taylor, who's only 15, and Arjun Cheda as well, who literally got his FMSCI driver's license, the license you need to compete in any official motor race in cars, just around 10 days ago. So it's the first proper understanding of what a championship like this is properly. So I don't think you can call it the start or end of a season. For so many of them, it's just the beginning of a longer journey. But think about drivers like Akshay Bora. This is how he stays sharp. He's doing Italian Formula 4. He's doing European Formula 4. There's aims and plans of doing Formula Regional in Europe as well. Bigger leagues where you're competing with drivers who intend to go into Formula 1, which is also what Akshay wants to do as well. So this is how you stay sharp, because otherwise, Jake, you can be doing tons and tons and tons of mindless testing, doing laps and laps around circuits. But the competitive spirit has to be kept up high. And with drivers like Rishon Rajiv, Cooper Webster, Shahan Ali Mohsin in the mix, that is exactly what Akshay Bora is doing.
A fabulous start to things as things currently progress. So a good opening bank for all of the contenders. It'll be worth pointing out that it is, somebody has asked us, does the F4 India champion get license grade points. They do indeed. So the winner of the F4 Indian Championship will actually get 12 points towards their Formula One super license. So it is quite important for the drivers who are looking to climb the ladder to look at this as a decent opportunity. For those who are looking at that thinking, well, there are 12 super license points on offer here, I need to get on the starting grid. Well, there is still time, because obviously the next round of the championship will take place at the final week of November into December. So there is still time to get on the starting grid if you think you can get those 12 points.
Yeah, and those 12 points are more symbolic more than anything, because you've got to maintain them in a matter of 3 years, the 30 points that you need to get into Formula One. But just the idea that you can earn that many super license points and compete with drivers at that level, I think that's the main attractive point. Because when I spoke to Rishan, and by the way, Rishan Rajiv, last year Indian Racing League driver, he's done so many top-line races in India. When I asked him, why are you here? What's the reason for you being here? A, sharpness, and B, testing if he's got it against drivers like Akshay Bora. Because Akshay Bora is beating top-line drivers in Italy. If you can go and beat Akshay Bora, that says a lot about your talent. And then you can pitch to sponsors saying, hey, I'm that good. Can you fund my racing in Europe? Can you fund my racing in the Middle East? Can you fund my journey towards becoming a Formula One driver? And that's what all of them are here for. Pitching themselves up against the top of the line. And if they swim, well, it's the start of something special, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very important banker to have somebody who's an established talent within F4 in this grid, and I'm really grateful to the likes of Akshay Bora and Dion Gowda, who will join the championship from round 2, because not only is it a good opportunity for them to keep their race hands in and to go somewhere a little bit more international in terms of their commercial prowess, but it also gives them, the other competitors, a benchmark to set themselves against, as you said. So Akshay Bora sets the pace, and 136.7 for him in front of Rishan Rajiv and Shahan Ali Mohsin. Then Alex Sawyer, the Vietnamese driver, on his first ever car appearance within a second of the time. Very impressive.
Very impressive, yeah.
Rishabh Jain in 5th position in front of Rohan Mahesh, and then Arjun Jaheda and the Australians, Jack Taylor and Cooper Webster, needing to improve. Nourdis Kafour, 10th position, and Sava Marjan. Difficult in terms of lap times at the moment. She's currently trying to smash her own confidence barrier at the moment.
Yeah.
But you look at that time and you think, well, that's not particularly good. Take into context the fact that the only competitive motorsport she's ever done before this is arrive and drive hire carts. That's very impressive to suddenly jump into F4. And, you know, this is a very, very big minefield. I don't think I would be able to go any quicker than her.
Yeah, frankly, that's true. That's true. And for Salva, it's just a matter of understanding what racing is like at this level. Because when you're doing rental go-karts, you don't have telemetry, you don't have data, you don't have so many pieces of information that you can use to tinker your driving to make it that much better. And the whole story is so interesting, right? Normally, drivers do go-karting, build up their skill level, and then come to that level, and then struggle for funding to race in a championship like this one. Salva's gone the opposite way. She's got lots of people willing to fund her racing story, and it's such an impressive and inspiring one. To see the fact that she's competing at this level and learning to swim on the go, that is how you develop as a driver. Because if you don't swim at the highest level, you don't really get to learn those skills about data, about team management, working as a team, understanding the limits of the cars, conditions like heat, working with the MRF tyres. This is such a great learning ground, not just for her, but for all these kids as well racing in this championship.
Yeah, it's a big mission, and you have to remember that this is the very first chapter in F4 India. Last year it was supposed to happen, but logistical challenges prevented it from happening. So you have to remember that, you know, you want things to be at a certain level on the first day. Well, Rome wasn't built in a day. In fact, it took several years to get Rome going and be the success story that it is. So these guys have put in a fantastic amount of work in testing. They've been struggling yesterday with very unfavourable weather conditions as well. I think a lot of people are going to have to bear into mind the context of how difficult yesterday was. It was a very tricky testing day with so much in terms of the difficulties of the weather. It was very changeable conditions. Every 5 minutes it would rain for a little bit more, which meant the track couldn't drain very well. The practice session they actually had this morning was in wet conditions as well, so they don't have a lot of slick tyre running. Here we go for the second qualifying session, another 10 minutes on the board. And obviously this will set the pace for the individual sessions. Now obviously there are 3 races, and 2 of those races are set by the qualifying times that we have in qualifying. The 3rd of those races are decided by a reverse grid draw, which we will talk about a little bit more in depth as we go through the race weekend. But with Akshay Bora having already set the pace on one particular qualifying session, the mission for him is to try and do it for a second time. For the likes of Rishan Rajiv and Shahan Ali Mohsin, they want to try and get him a little bit further up. So another 10-minute session then on the timing screens. This will set another grid over the course of the races later, but certainly Akshay Bora has 1 pole position under his belt. Another one will surely come, unless the likes of Shahan Ali Mohsin of the Hyderabad Blackbirds or the likes of Rishan Rajiv in the Speed Demons Delhi car have a chance to overhaul him.
Now, in this session, I really want all of you folks to keep an eye on car number 50, Jack Taylor. Now, this kid is properly competing in his first ever car race. He's Aussie, he's 15. He's only done 1 year of karting as well. But what the interesting part with Jack is that he develops his pace over time. Normally, he won't quite go out there and go for one flying lap and be the fastest over here. But his pace will keep on getting better with the more laps he does. That's normally how he gets on there. With 2 consistent qualifying sessions, we saw that he was the second off the pace in Q1. He might just be very, very close in Q2 because he understands the conditions and settings a lot more than he did in Q1. And that might just be the case for everyone, Jake. Because for someone like Akshay Bora, I'm not surprised he's in pole position, right? Even though it's different from the cars that he drives in European F1 and Italian F4. Roughly, the way to drive a Formula 4 car remains the same. So he's straight up there. But Shahan Ali Mohsin, he's done lots of Formula 2000 cars in India, which are phenomenal aerodynamic machines, really powerful. But then, when you consider the circumstances, they're still getting used to the dynamics of this machine. It's very, very different. It's got a lot of aero, but aero is not the most important point in this car. It's making sure that the mechanical grip works out very well. And so many of these drivers, Jake, working with a turbo for the first time in their life. And I know it's not really like the biggest thing in the world, but just getting used to when the power arrives and when you can accelerate in the middle of a corner. These tiny little things can get you a tenth or two in a lap time. And when the gaps are that close, all of that matters. So I'm intrigued to see what Shahan and Jack Taylor does. They will only get faster with the more laps they do.
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation, and the tough battles that the competition is going to give us will very much indicate that. It's worth bearing in mind as well, you know, we are very critical in the world of motor racing at drivers at this level if they make a mistake. We are very quick to chastise them and kind of say, well, they're no good, are they?
Yeah.
But let's think about this in the wider context. In the world of soccer, in the world of cricket, in the world of rugby...
Did he call it soccer?
Well, we've got to remember we've got international viewers here.
I'm ashamed.
Some of them will still call it that. I'm just trying
it's
to...
not soccer.
I know it's football. I know it's football. You know it's football. But we have to give it international context. Bear with me on this one. You've got to remember that, you know, you don't see players playing for Manchester United or Paris Saint-Germain or Barcelona or any of these big clubs until they are ready to be in the first team, until they are at Premier League level, until they are main championship level. These guys are under the scrutiny of the world's press and the world's fans from such a young age. These guys are 15, 16, 17 years of age, and all their mistakes, all of their scrutiny, all of their development is being watched under the gaze of everybody. This is when you still make mistakes. This is when you still get it wrong. I mean, you're still making up mistakes and messing up in Formula 1, for goodness sake.
Yep.
And we are so quick to punish these guys for making errors when they're still right in the heart of their development. You certainly don't see the under-17 football clubs battling it out on front of the world's press.
Yeah.
They do all of those matches behind closed doors. So it's very hard to then give these guys that same level of fairness and scrutiny without a little bit of grace. And I feel that a lot of people should give these guys a little bit more grace, a little bit more fairness to get themselves up to speed. Some of them are still in that process of learning. Akshay Bora is giving himself a little bit of space there. One of the things you might notice, actually, if you were watching the Indian Racing League last year, and this is how close it got. Very, very nasty moment there for Jack Taylor, just pushing a little bit more, the rear wheel coming on the curbs and the wheel spin kicking him up. He was lucky to save that, but he did a good job in order to do so. And you can see just how much dirt there is on the racing line at various points. Some drivers have gone off. One thing I want you guys to keep an eye out for, if you watched the Indian Racing League last year and know this circuit, having watched a lot of the races here at the Madras International Circuit, is on the main straight. In the background, behind the grandstand, you'll notice that there's a lot of building work going on, and there's another bit of tarmac going down. The kart racers of India are going to get a new racetrack to play on, which is right behind the main straight here. And it's funny because a lot of the drivers on the grid here and in the Indian Racing League have actually come from the Indian Karting League. So they'll be able to see a brand new circuit going up. They're actually doing some testing mileage on the new design, which is currently being assessed. So fascinating that we've got a whole plethora of Indian motorsport on this one phase. You were telling me earlier in the week, Samil, that the rallycross circuit's being developed here as well.
Yeah, they do lots of rallying and rallycross as well over here. So think of it this way, the Madras International Circuit has lots of slip roads and exit lanes where there's lots of dirt and grass. They actually do a proper rally of Chennai around the MIC. It is phenomenal. It's properly the home of motorsport, and so many bike races also happen here all the year round. it's a fun circuit for cars. For bikes, it's unreal. But let's get back to the four wheels, because Alex Sawyer, let's focus on him for a second. He's also not done lots of car racing. In fact, he's only done a couple of Formula 4 tests. Not in this exact car, somewhat similar, but also getting used to the halo for the first time, getting used to the turbo power delivery for the first time. And also, the one big advantage for him is that he knows these sort of subtropical conditions. He's raced a lot in Vietnam. He's later raced a lot in Europe as well. So his driver database about how to manage differing conditions is quite vast. But then to manage a car of this size, of this speed, that is going to be a fun task. And I wonder how he adapts up to it. So far, so good, because in qualifying 1, Alex was P4, only a second away from the pace-setting Akshay Bora. What I can say, though, is that Rishabh Rajiv has actually upped his game big time. He is just only a couple of tenths away from his fastest lap time in Q1, but he is crucially faster than Akshay Bora right here.
Yeah, 1:36.9 is very good work indeed from Rishabh Rajiv. 0.3 of a second up on Akshay Bora. We're still going to get to see some pace. Alex Sawyer is 0.4 of a second back from that. There goes Shahan Ali Mozdin, though, into second position as he comes off the line. Here's Rishabh Rajiv crossing the line now to come through on a 1:36.9 still. He didn't improve on the full lap there. But Shahan Ali Mozdin, this is a good run from him, considering that, yes, he's got prior experience, having raced in the Indian Racing League last year, but that was the last time he sat in a racing car. He hasn't actually driven a race car at all since the final lap at Hyderabad last year. So for Shahan Ali Mozdin to get straight back into the racing car and be on pace and be right up there battling for pole position, full credit.
And he was studying. He is still studying in Dubai, and he's not living with his parents anymore. Studying in Dubai. It's such a different environment to what you'd get back home in Agra, where you're just surrounded by so many family members and the love and care, and you're also doing racing. Suddenly, you're on your own, alone, in a completely different country, different culture, and you get a phone call saying, "Hey Shahan, will you do the Indian Racing League?" So Shahan pops into Chennai, assuming he's going to drive for Speed Demons Delhi, until his dad gives him a surprise. "Shahan, you're not actually going to drive for Speed Demons Delhi. You are going to go race in Indian Formula 4. Just that mindset shift. Now, for someone like you and me, Jake, I'm pretty sure that we might take a couple of days just to adjust to the fact that we're driving a different car altogether. But Shahan is Shahan. He's so chill. He's so relaxed. He's like, I've got to drive a race car, right? I'll do it. Give me Indian F4, Indian Racing League, give me touring cars, give me anything. I will drive it to the best of my abilities. And that's what we're seeing so far. There's no real pressure, no real preference that I want to drive this or that. Give me a car, I will go fast. And that simplicity is what I love so much about him.
Yeah, Shahan has just come straight in with that can-do attitude and pushed himself to the limit across the line. 1.6 seconds back on that lap, so not his fastest, that's for sure. As Bora still holds the pace here from Rajiv, Ali Mozdin and Alex Sawyer. I'm so impressed with Alex Sawyer, coming in as a newbie to car racing, has never done it before this week and has come straight in and looked like he's on the pace right from the word go. There's Shahan Ali Mozdin, third position. He did the giant killing effort last year. I mentioned at the time that his performance when he stayed out in the lead in the Indian Racing League was a bit like what we saw from Sebastian Vettel in the Toro Rosso at Monza all those years ago. And it was a giant killing effort. That's more like it from Cooper Webster. He's put the car into fourth position. There's the pace we expected to see from him. Didn't go well at all in the first session, but they've got on top of whatever issues befell the Chennai Turbo Riders machine. And now he finds himself up in P4. That's better.
Yeah, 1:37.3 for Cooper Webster. I get a feeling it's going to go faster than that. He has gone faster than that earlier on in the weekend. So it's a matter of getting that confidence back in. But with only 17 seconds left to go in this 10-minute session, time is not really on his side. He might just get one more fastest lap, but I hope he gets the track clean and empty. The fun part is, Jake, we look at 10 minutes as a long time period in qualifying, right? And we wonder, oh, 10 minutes, you can do so many lap times. But so many times, they are impeded by other drivers, the temperatures might not be right, the tires might not be warmed up, you might not be in the right mental space as well. So for all you know, you might just have one big lap for qualifying, and Alex Sawyer has nailed it.
What a lap from Alex Sawyer. He finishes off very strong there to go third position, the young man from Vietnam. That is brilliant from Alex Sawyer to finish off in such a great run. Even Shahan Ali Mozdin can't compete with that as he comes across the line to finish up in P4. Arjun Chaheda and Ryan Madesh have both finished off their laps, as too has the Singaporean Norris Gafoor, whose sister Natasha is here supporting him. Here's Akshay Bora finishing off a very smooth lap. And I don't think he's going to go faster. No, he's not. So he's had a bit of an issue there in the third sector, I think. So Akshay Bora not able to go faster than his best. But then, crucially, nor is Rishon Rajiv. The last one across the line is Cooper Webster. He remains in 5th place. Look, Ali Mozin and Cooper Webster set exactly the same lap time to the 1,000th of a second. They both came up with a 1:37.356, but it's Ali Mozin that gets 4th place based on the fact he set the lap first.
Unbelievable, unbelievable stuff at the Indian Formula 4 Championship. It's only our second ever qualifying session, and the gaps, wait, we literally have no gap at all between Shahan and Cooper Webster. Phenomenal stuff. And when you consider their stories, when you consider the differences in their career, the fact that they can come together at this stage and post exactly the same lap. Cooper Webster doing lots of British Formula 4, doing lots of sim racing. Shahan doesn't like to do that. Shahan is just a classic old school driver. Comes to the track and drives. Still, not a year worth of driving and still same lap times. Phenomenal.
This is my MVP though. Alex Sawyer coming in, having never raced a car before, has come straight in and put it in P3 in his second ever qualifying session. That's just astonishing. I mean, we all knew he had talent when he was in the RGMMC paddocks, when he was in Miami X30, when he was in the OK junior and senior competitions. He just never had any luck, but I tell you what, he has written his own luck. And I've said this time again, karting doesn't define how big a talent you are, it's how much you learn and then take into cars.
Yeah.
You've got to look at drivers like Nikola Tsolov, who had such a bad time in the karting world in terms of results. We all knew he was quick. The second he got into an F4 car in Spain, he won everything. It's looking like it's a similar story for Alex Sawyer. You know, he's come fresh off a very trying, very frustrating period in karting where he knew he had pace. He just wasn't able to maximize it. Here in Indian F4, first ever race weekend, 3rd position on the grid. That is monstrous. Very impressive indeed.
And for Alex Sawyer, right, the interesting part is he's only so young. He's only 15. And I know it physically does not matter as much these days because drivers are so strong, but the guy is barely a few inches over 5 feet. But he's still so physically strong. He's got the build of an absolute bodybuilder. And those muscles and that core strength really helps you in conditions like this when all the other drivers could potentially get fatigued. I was hearing stories of Formula 4 drivers actually getting tired because the humidity levels are unlike anything they've ever experienced in their life. Apart from Akshay Bora, he's seen this, he's done this before. This is his game, yet again. Pole position for the man, for Godspeed Kochi.
Rishon Rajiv in a very strong second. Brilliant work from Alex Sawyer in the Hyderabad Blackbirds car. 3rd position in front of Shahan Ali Mozin. Then Cooper Webster. Rishabh Jain in a very solid 6th position in front of Arjun Chaheda. Rohan Madesh, Jack Taylor, Nouris Gafoor. And in 11th position once again, having had a very solid run so far, it is Salva Marjan. Now, we finish off in F4, having had the 2 qualifying sessions in strong pace. And a very good performance from Akshay Bora to take pole position in both races. He now climbs out of the car. Job done, and he can be very happy with that. There is the team boss. Fabulous performance there from the crew. They've worked very hard indeed to continue that sort of epic pace. But an excellent run from Akshay Bora on both occasions then, stealing away the pole position in the qualifying sessions. He can be very happy indeed with that as the F4 India qualifying sessions come to an end. The Indian Racing League drivers are about to head out themselves.
This is where the fun really goes to another level. Because in Indian Formula 4, they're all really serious kids working towards a certain target. I want to be X% faster, Y% faster. Sometimes they end up losing their humor in this pursuit for greatness. In the Indian Racing League, though, these are people who have accomplished so much in their racing career that they're here for a bit of fun and a lot of teamwork, which is why you get to see them drive a lot more relaxed, which is where they have a lot more fun. And still, they're able to push the limits so well. It's going to be a ton of fun watching the Indian Racing League qualifying coming up shortly.
Indian Racing League 2023, and we are back into the action once again for this 4-round competition at the home of Indian motorsport, the city of Chennai. We cannot wait to see how this all continues to play out. We have an amazing battle in front of us. All of the contenders are geared up and ready across the 6 teams, and we are ready for more great drama and action. It'll be a fabulous battle on the Madras International Circuit to kick off this 2023 season, and we are very excited about how this is going to be. The challenge already will be very, very tricky for the drivers to cope with, as the wet weather conditions from earlier have finally dissipated, and now we've got ourselves dry running once again. There are a few new faces compared to last year as well. We'll tell you all about the movers and shakers, but it looks as though we're underway for starters orders in qualifying. The first drivers will head out today for both qualifying and the race, and then the second drivers will come out tomorrow for the second qualifying session and second race. So it's going to be an interesting one, as the championship winners from last year, Godspeed Kochi, looking to continue their fabulous rise, and we're delighted to say that the winning pair from last year's team championship, Nikhil Bora and Alistair Young, are back in the cars once again in the Godspeed Kochi team. It's all change elsewhere, even in the Hyderabad Blackbirds team. It's a bit of a shake-up, as Alvaro Parente, the Portuguese driver and former representative of his nation in the A1 Grand Prix World Cup many years ago, who was a regular race podium finisher, he is now in the number 1 car. He'll be sharing that, of course, with last year's champion Akhil Rabindra. Yep. And of course he'll also share that, well, he will share that just for this weekend, because from the second round onwards it'll be the Le Mans winner and superstar Neil Jani who will come back into the car once again. But also in the Hyderabad Blackbirds there's been a bit of a shuffle of the deck as well, because we have a new face that will be racing tomorrow, replacing Lola Lovinfos. That is the Spanish talent Laura Camps, who is coming into the team. So there's a bit of a shuffle of the deck everywhere, really, and that's just in one team, of course. And you can see there a few names from last year that'll be familiar. Amir Saeed, Anindith Reddy are back again, as too is Oliver Webb, and also we have Alistair Young and Ruan Alva, of course, who are still there for the Godspeed Kochi team. Their fourth driver is once again Fabian Volven, the former W Series racer. So there's still a lot of familiar faces up and down the list. We'll also hopefully see Raul Hyman here for a full campaign. Don't forget that last week he was finishing off his Super Formula Championship campaign. Correct. And John Lancaster is back in the Chennai Turbo Riders again, having had a very solid effort last year, of course. He helped the team take a win on the streets of Hyderabad last year. So there's still a lot to talk about, but the drivers are heading out for their first runs in the qualifying session in the Indian Racing League, and it's great to see everybody putting on a good show.
Absolutely. 10 minutes of qualifying, similar structure and format for this one in comparison to the Indian Formula 4 Championship. But crucially, the Indian Racing League has had one major change. We no longer are going to have the feature race. So it's only going to be 2 sprint races, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. So we're going to have 2 different qualifyings for that. This one sets the grid for the race that we're going to have later today. And unlike last year where you qualified for your teammate, this year you qualify for yourself. And eventually the points that you get in the main race add up to the points for the car. So think of it this way. If you've got Ryan Mohammed and Nicole Hamilton sharing 1 car, they essentially add up the points towards that car. So they'll be racing individually on Saturday and Sunday respectively, but then adding up the points towards car number 6. And that way you're going to have a cars championship. So it'll be Team Chennai car number 6 versus Team Goa car number 7. Something of that sort. But no longer do we have the format where the teammates qualify for each other, which means, Jake, we're going to have more representative qualifying lap times. And that's going to be interesting to watch, because there are so many drivers who are not quite good in qualifying but good in the race, and they were benefiting from that structure last year. No longer do we have that. You qualify for your own, you race on your own, which means that the pressure is even greater now in the Indian Racing League.
Indeed it is, and it means essentially that there is a car championship and a team championship, but there is no driver championship. So if the number 7 car, for example, were to be the one that would win the title, then the 2 drivers would take the trophy overall. But then the team's championship, it's all 4 drivers obviously within the crew that take the championship. It's a very unique racing format for motorsport, but it really encourages that team play, which means that the driver on Saturday gets a lot of coaching from the driver in the car on Sunday, and then they swap over. They basically motivate each other to move further forward. So Ruan Alva has set the first benchmark lap as they come through. Ruan Alva setting a time of 1:32.394 to set the benchmark. Alvaro Parente's first lap is 0.8 of a second away from that, but that's just the warming up lap. And there is Reddy coming through over the line. So an Reddy finishing off his run there in third position for the time being. But that's just the banker lap with the cars coming over the line for the first time. So don't take it too much as read. Ryan Mohammed is the new face in the team at the Chennai Turbo Riders, as the new teammate to John Lancaster, and they are running in the number 6 car. And the number 6 car, of course, Ryan Mohammed is sharing with the Canadian youngster Nicole Haverda, who will race tomorrow. She actually came off the back of winning the US Pro Championship this year, so she's definitely one to watch, the 17-year-old Canadian. We'll talk more about her tomorrow, of course, when she's in the car. We're still waiting for Alistair Young to head out onto the circuit, as to we are waiting for Oliver Webb. In fact, rather dramatically, we're waiting for Oliver Webb to complete his first racing lap, because last year they had absolutely no luck at all in that particular car. He didn't really get to show his form. A little bit of a traffic jam issue there for, is that the number 70 trying to dive the way through up the inside? No, I think that was the 22 actually. I think that was Gowda trying to come through, but there is the 22 of Gowda now working his way further forward, hoping to make a bit more time of it. Ryan Mohammed is doing a fair job as well, trying to get himself dialed in. But it'll be an interesting one, as all of the contenders are hoping for a decent run. They're just trying to get the cars up to speed. You've got to remember that these are very different racing cars to what these drivers will be used to seeing. A lot of them have done either single-seater or GTs over the course of the last 12 months. This is a very different car. The Wolf is essentially kind of a crossbreed between a single-seater and a Le Mans prototype. It's very difficult to get used to these cars, and the drivers are actually really struggling to get the notion of them. They're a big beast, these things. And for those who are thinking, you said it's a Wolf, is that related to the Formula One team in the 1970s? It absolutely is. Yes, yeah. It's the original race outfit. They essentially went into making sports prototypes, mini prototipes as they're known, in Italy, and they do have different championships around the world. But for those who are thinking, is there a link between this Wolf and the Wolf that used to race in Formula One? Absolutely there is. It's exactly the same brand.
And this car, I don't, it's so hard to describe what this thing really is. I think a crossbreed would be good, because this thing, it has the chassis of a single-seater car. It's got covered wheels, which makes it partially like a sports car, but it's got a superbike engine, and a phenomenal one that. The Aprilia RS V4's V4 engine that revs up to 13,000 RPM. It blows your mind how high this thing revs. And just hear the sound as it goes past. 220 brake horsepower, Jake. That is enough to absolutely shatter the ground beneath it. And the fun fact is, this car barely weighs around, what, 700 kilos? It's super light. The way you can chuck it into a corner is quite something. But the grip does not quite come from the aerodynamics. The grip really comes from the mechanical side of things, the tires, the suspension, how you can lay the power down, how's the gearbox working. These sort of things are crucial to getting a good lap time. So mechanical knowledge of the car is so essential, which is something that Ruhan Alva in car number 5 has quite a fair bit. Now, 2 minutes left to go in qualifying. Let's talk about car number 5, Ruhan Alva, very, very quickly. That guy is the youngest driver in the entire grid. Only 17, yeah. But he's still coaching drivers who are 21, 22, 23-year-olds. He's literally fighting for a championship in the Indian Formula 4 LGB Championship. He's competed in the Ferrari Driver Academy. He's competed in the FIA World Motorsport Games. And as a kid, he's one of the fastest drivers in the country. Very impressive. Clocked a banker lap time, gets back in the car, chills. Yeah. That's what Ruhan Alva does. Yeah, Ruhan is a very talented individual. Good to see him up at the top end at the moment, just quicker than Raul Hyman, who's just come off. So little. Yeah, very little. 55 thousandths of a second in between these two at this stage. There's still a little bit more to come, though, from these cars. John Lancaster bangs in a 3rd position. Avara Parent in 4th place at the moment. Alistair Young has gone out onto the circuit, and looks like he's come back in again. Or is that his teammate Ruhan Alva, I wonder? Across the line goes Oliver Webb to set the pace, and Carl Kumaran, who is also a new face to the Indian Racing League. He was a former winner of the Dubai O-Plate in the DD2 gearbox karting category, so he definitely knows how to lay it on the line and go for a very fast time in a quick kart. And I should tell you that the DD2 racing world of karting, gearbox karting at that level, it's essentially Formula One without the money. You really do feel that same sort of intensity and energy as you drive your way through. So Carl Kumaran can handle himself very well, and this will be an interesting step up for him. It's a bigger car. Oh, and that's an off. We've had one of the Speed Demons Delhi cars going off. That's got to be Sandeep Kumar. Oh, no. So Sandeep Kumar, unfortunately, he was the only Speed Demons driver racing today, because unfortunately their female driver is not able to attend until the 2nd round of the championship in that particular car. So Sandeep Kumar
unfortunately spinning off the road at that particular point. So, oh no, sorry, that's the other car, isn't it? So, yeah, Sandeep Kumar is in the 86, and Akash Gowda is in the sister car. It's going to be Mitch Gilbert that drives the lone car tomorrow. But, yeah, big difficulties there. I can't quite make out from here if that is Gowda or if that is Sandeep Kumar. I can't quite tell from this position, but certainly an off there. And as the checkered flag is out anyway, it pretty much finishes us off in style. Everybody's pitted in, so it's a rather disappointing end to the session. But it's Ruhan Alva who gets it from, well, that's the number 70 that's out on the course. That is the Bangalore Speedsters driver, Karl Kumaran, looking to finish the lap. And they've only got one flying lap. Oliver Webb goes 6th, Kumaran goes 7th, so they both managed to go quicker than Amis Saeed in the Goa Aces car. But the 22 doesn't get a lap time in, so I would guess that the car that spun off is, in fact, Akash Gowda.
This is huge. This is huge for one big reason. Alistair Young, last year's team champion, has not been able to put a good competitive lap time. That hurts.
10th place.
Yeah, Alistair Young, for context, folks, races these Wolf cars in Europe at big circuits like Monza, Le Mans, gets podiums against the best of the very best, even though his car isn't quite at the same level as all his competitors. Alistair Young knows this car and this circuit like the back of his hand, but still, he's only in P10. Strange how it's working. Clearly, something's not going right. But I find it impressive, Jake, that John Lancaster, flying straight in yesterday from England, no testing in that car, and he's not driven this thing for a year now, straight up goes, yeah, this looks like a Dars I can handle. Only 2 tenths away from Rahul Hyman and Ruhan Alva. Both of them have got a decent bit of testing in there. That's the sign of a pro who knows his vehicle dynamics so well.
Yeah, that's John Lancaster all over. He knows exactly how to jump into a hot competitive machine and be strong. Don't forget, he was one of the front-running competitors in the world of Formula Renault 3.5 back in the day, when it was known as the World Series by Renault, so he knows how to handle a quick car. Ruhan Alva then, going straight out there and getting a top time, 55 thousandths of a second quicker than Rahul Hyman, who's spent an entire year struggling to get a competitive B-Max lap time out of his car in Super Formula. Finally, he gets the chance to be at the front of the grid again. Good to see. John Lancaster and Alvaro Parent, no major shocks for them to be on the second row. And then Ryan Mohammed in his first ever qualifying appearance doing a good job there in front of Oliver Webb and Karl Kumaran. It is the 86 that went off, in fact. It's Sandeep Kumar that went off the road. So Akash Gowda not setting a time due to other problems, but look at the long faces at Godspeed Kochi. Not a great start for Alistair Young as he is consoled by his teammate and stablemate Nikhil Bora. These two teamed up last year to win the title for Indian Racing League for Godspeed Kochi. And they start this year very much on the back foot, 2 seconds away for the Malaysian. Alistair Young is very much known in this paddock as Mr. Party Animal. If anything ever happens that's slightly over the top, anything slightly whimsical or a little bit daredevilish, it's usually Alistair Young that starts it. I remember a fabulous baggage carousel incident from last year when he ended up riding the trays and he actually got caught. You shouldn't do these kind of things, Alistair, but hey, that's his style. There's Nicola Verda on the right, just chatting away to her teammate Ryan Mohammed. She's absolutely got the Indian style down, hasn't she? She's only been here last year as a rookie. She's come back in 2023. She fits in like a native.
Exactly. But it's good to see all these youngsters adapting to the culture as well quite a fair bit. They've been able to go around the city, explore everything quite well, and understand what India truly is about. And importantly, also understand what Indian racing conditions are all about as well. The heat, that could potentially get to so many drivers, but you can tell the drivers that are absolute professionals. Rahul Hyman, John Lancaster, Alvaro Parente, they don't really race in these conditions all year round, but they've done so much of racing around the world that they know how to deal with conditions like deferring cars, lots of heat, tires that are completely new to them in terms of how they work out. It does not matter to them. If they understand how race cars work, they're able to go out there and smash it. But still, full credit to Ruhan Alva. In comparison to all of these guys, I think, would it be safe to say Ruhan actually didn't even race when Alvaro... Ruhan wasn't born when Alvaro started to race as well.
That's correct,
but
yes.
That's such an impressive lap time.
Not bad at all from Ruhan Alva. What